Hello everyone and welcome to Green Healing. And today I'm going to talk about sexual abuse as a form of abuse. I want to take a moment before I begin though, because this is a sensitive subject and it might trigger an emotion within you, and that would be perfectly normal. And you need to respect yourself if that happens. If you need to turn away from the video, I'll understand. Because I will be going into some details of what I experienced as well, because this was one of the forms of abuse that was very predominant in what I experienced at the hands of the man who abused me. First, I want to clarify something that some people have asked themselves or in conversations with me. If there is no sexual assault or rape, is it still sexual abuse? Yes. And I'm going to explain what encompasses sexual abuse. Rape and assault are a form of sexual abuse too. But for a long time, even I had no idea that what I experienced was sexual abuse, because the sexual interactions were consensual. Abusers will often coerce their victims when sexually abusing them with threats, fear tactics, psychological punishments, as was used on me, to coerce the victim to satisfy their immediate sexual desires, even if doing so is a direct disrespect of the victim's bodily needs or emotional needs. Now, there doesn't need to be any sex for there to be sexual abuse, because there are also verbal cues and psychological abuses mixed within it that encompass sexual abuse. A few other forms of abuse that tie into sexual abuse and make it sexual abuse, if the focus of the abuse is the sexual nature. For my personal experience, through that coercion and that abuse, those verbal cues, those psychological punishments, through time, he was able to groom me to be his sex slave. And that's what a lot of abusers actually do to their victims. They groom them, and the victim is not aware that they're being groomed or they have been groomed until it's too late. So sexual abuse also relates to being forced to unwillingly take part in sexual activity. It's also, but not limited to, touching in a sexual manner without consent, forced intercourse, forcing another person to perform sexual acts that may be degrading or painful, forcing a person to view pornographic material. Narky, as I call the man who abused me, did that also. Sat me down in front of pornographic material to manipulate me to perform what he was showing me with him later on. Sexual abuse is also using a weapon in order to force compliance. Exhibitionism, revenge porn is also a form of sexual abuse. Making mean and nasty and unwelcome sexual comments or jokes that belittle and degrade the person, either in regards to their physical appearance, their sexual performance, their desirability, how the abuser is turned on or not. Withholding sexual affection. Some of the psychological / sexual punishments were that very thing, withholding the affection. Not just sexual affection, just holding hands, cuddling, hugging, affection, and just sensuality. In a normal, healthy relationship, you will have little things of either physical affection or sensual affection or even of sexual affection. It doesn't have to be full on, just a little touch or something that you share with the person that satisfy you, especially in those moments when you cannot be intimate together. It is a form of intimacy all the same. But an abuser will withhold that, will use that, will claim that you need to earn your right to have that affection. The withdrawal of it will be used as punishment for not complying if you didn't feel well. Or they can use it as a reward, and that furthers the abuse. Well, because you were so obedient, I am giving you this affection, and that reinforces in the brain that we have to perform, we have to obey in order to be allowed to have that affection. And that's just twisted. That's completely backwards. If someone really loves us, they just give us affection whenever. And if we need affection and say, I want to hug, they'll hug us and be happy to do so. We don't have this back and forth of earning the right or obeying or withdrawal. That's unhealthy. That's sexual abuse. Sexual abuse also includes the denial of a person's sexuality or privacy, like watching. Denial of sexual information and education. Humiliation. Criticizing a person's sexuality or trying to control another person's sexuality. Part of the coercion that I experienced was I came to a point where I was so afraid of these withdrawals because the man who abused me is also a narcissist. So there was secondary psychopath and narcissistic personality disorder all rolled into one. And when the withdrawal started, it was gradual, but there was a lot of love bombing at the beginning and then so much withdrawal. And so I became so fearful of the withdrawal that I would obey his commands. I remember there was a time I was sick. I had a sore throat. I was losing my voice. I had a fever and I had nasal congestion. And usually when that happens, the good thing to do is to stay in bed, sweat it out, detox, or, all those, the granny remedies and anything you want to do to heal your body. But I was so scared of the withdrawal and of the punishments that I forced myself to have sex with him, even if I was sick. And of course, I felt even worse after physically because I was not respecting my body. And that's part of the sexual abuse. I consented to not respecting my body out of the intense fear of the punishment and the abuse that would follow if I didn't. And when I did respect my body, there would be that withdrawal after. The pinpoint, the clear point on point saying next time, because this time, blah, blah, blah. And then the next time, if I wanted affection, if I was initiating, no, because last time. And I wasn't allowed to say no. I always had to say yes. But my abuser always said no because I wasn't allowed to initiate, which is also backwards from what a healthy relationship would be, you know. Also, part of this mixed in with other types of abuse, it's the abusers will often want their victims to dress a certain way or have their hair and makeup a certain way in order to look more appealing, more attractive, more sexy. But it doesn't mean that if you do it, they're going to desire you automatically and want to give you the affection that you want. It's just a condition, and then we do it expecting them to give us the affection after, but it's not guaranteed. And there was a lot of belittling. You're not pretty enough. You're not sexy enough. You're not this enough. It was never enough. And a lot of abusers are never satisfied. And that's the thing. They project onto us their promiscuity. A lot of these people have something internal going on where they are not sexually satisfied ever. But they project it onto us and claim that we do not sexually satisfy them. It's our fault. We have to change this behavior. We have to try this. We have to try that. We have to be more like this. We have to be less like that. We have to learn this or we have to unlearn that. But it's not us, it's them. They have a sexual problem. They have a problem that they project onto us. It's not you. It is not your fault. Because in a healthy relationship, we see that we satisfy our partners and our partners satisfy us. And so that is further proof if the research done by experts wasn't enough, you know? Threats of cheating. If you fail to sleep with me tonight or to dress a certain way or to act like this or to do that or to satisfy me, I will cheat on you. And so they make these threats and then they don't cheat on us. And so they use that as leverage to say, well, I haven't cheated, therefore you owe me. And so they just take. They take when they make the threats, and then when they don't carry out those threats, they take some more because they claim that you owe them for not having carried out those threats. I want to share something with you. It's something that I consider disgusting, but it's verbal. And there were times where Narky would have me look at myself in the mirror. And I'm sharing this with you because maybe you've experienced something similar also. And he would have me look at myself in the mirror, usually when I was naked. And he would say, look at yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. And he would try to shame my body in all sorts of different ways. And so through that repetition, he would repeat it over and over again through different times. That was part, because I mentioned in the past that he brainwashed me. Well, this repetition is part of the brainwashing process. And so he was brainwashing me to feel ashamed of my body, to feel ashamed of myself sexually. And not just that, there were other brainwash things also in order for him to control me, but in relation to the sexual abuse, that's part of it. And I hated my body. I felt disgusted with myself. I couldn't look at myself. And find myself pretty or sexy, even dressed. And through that brainwash, repetition. But through healing, I came to a point one day where I could look at myself and I did not feel that disdain that he had made me feel about myself. It had gone. And so it's important to understand that brainwash is also part of sexual abuse, that they will brainwash us because we can rewire those parts of our brain. We can undo that. I was able to undo that brainwash, mostly through the meditation therapy and the EFT. But it's important to know that we can rewire our brains. The brainwash doesn't have to stay. We don't have to hate our bodies and find ourselves disgusting just because the abuser brainwashed us to feel that way. Because I don't feel that way anymore. You know? And if you're still in a place where you feel like that, there's a possibility for you also to find that healing and that liberation. And they're different. That's why I'm sharing all these types of healing also. There are different ways. Everybody's healing journey is different. You need to find what will work for you. But for me, it was EFT, which is working flawlessly for all sorts of things, but also the mind calm and mind detox, which was crucial in my healing journey. So that's why I wanted to touch on that, because a lot of people with whom I've spoken who have experienced sexual abuse still struggle with, because of that brainwash aspect, with have trouble loving and appreciating themselves and their bodies the way they did before the abuse. So you can find that again. I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but there's more. There's more that encompasses sexual abuse. It's there's a lot, and it's beyond me how someone would want to inflict all this on a person, but there's a lot that encompasses in here. So more that encompasses sexual abuse is forced prostitution, unfound allegations of promiscuity and or infidelity. So accusing you of flirting or being too sensual with someone else, or you were rubbing yourself on him or on her, or accusing you of always being suspicious of you cheating. And so you needing to constantly prove that you're not through certain sexual acts and or other things. It's really backwards. Purposefully exposing the person to sexually transmitted diseases and infection. And that's really not, that's not good. So I know that this was very maybe heavy, information heavy. There's a lot to take in from what encompasses sexual abuse, and hopefully some of my examples from what I lived can help you with what you're going through or what you went through. And hopefully this knowledge can help you understand better. Like I said before, the meditation therapy was crucial in my healing journey. EFT, for some reason, the alternative types of therapies are working wonders with me, but there was traditional therapists who had helped also. And the EFT tapping therapy is working wonders for all sorts of things. So I definitely recommend those if you'd like to try them. Everyone's healing journey is different. And remember to be kind to yourself. And if knowing all this information has dredged up any emotions and feelings, that's fine. You are allowed to feel this that you are feeling. I've shared a lot of heavy information, even if I'm sharing it more lightheartedly, because that's where I am in my journey now. You might have experienced intense emotions hearing what I was sharing, and that is fine. That is normal. Just be kind to yourself, acknowledge it, and seek out the therapy that will work best for you. And I hope that you will find the emotional freedom that I have found also. And remember, empower yourself and be emotionally free.